Good morning YouTube. It is Monday morning, just gone 6. I am about to set off down towards London, which is going to take me most of the day. I've put my route in. I've got multiple supercharges planned. It's my first ever long distance EV road trip. Let's see how it goes. Hello again. We've been going for just over an hour on the Aberdeen bypass. I'm cruising at 65, which seems like a reasonable speed to roll along at. Energy use is 291 watt hours per kilometre, so probably a little high based on the sort of average that I'm usually getting, which is around 260. Then again, the Aberdeen Western bypass is really hilly, I suspect that we've used a fair bit of energy just basically going up and down the hills. So 2 hours to go exactly until my first supercharger stop in Edinburgh at Newbridge. I'll come back to you then. Hello from the Edinburgh Supercharger. Getting here was kind of fun. So you come off the M9 at the Newbridge roundabout, and basically this roundabout had every single movement on it with traffic lights which were out of phase, so you stopped and then you stopped and then you stopped, and of course the traffic's actually queuing across the roundabout, which doesn't help. So this is Edinburgh. There's 8 charges, and then there's another 8 over there which aren't connected because apparently they've got some power supply issues. So at the moment there's only 8, but there's only 4 of us here, so it's not particularly a problem. There's not actually a lot here. There is a McDonald's just up the road that way, about 5 minutes walk. There isn't a pavement for all of it, which is really helpful. But I have been here for just over 25 minutes and I've got another 10 minutes to go, and that gives me enough juice to go onwards across the border to England as far as Scotch Corner for the next stop. Okay, it's just hit 80%. And actually 10 minutes earlier than it suggested. It's telling me I got enough now to well, it says complete the trip. The next part of the trip is to get to Scotch Corner via Jedburgh, so I'm going the A68 over Carter Bar, which is usually pretty light on traffic and is really scenic and isn't really much slower, if at all, versus going the longer way around on the A1. So let's go and unplug. Hang on. Now, to do that, don't I need to go to charging and stop charging and unlock charge port? Yeah. Help if I have that the right way around. That's back in. Charge port's closed. We're good to go. We've been going for total journey time about 5¼ hours, but that did include the charging stop. We are coming up on Carter Bar, which is the border between Scotland and England, high up in the Cheviot Hills, heading into a really remote part of Northumbria. It's absolutely beautiful up here, and as usual there is no traffic at all. It's the most direct route between Edinburgh and sort of the northeast of England, but most sat-nav routes won't take you this way. They'll try and take you around the coast on the A1, which is definitely a lot slower. So how's the trip been? Well, it's actually been really relaxed. This is the first long trip I've done in the car since the trip home from collecting it in Glasgow. It's the first time that I've done supercharges as part of the trip, and well, it's been really good the way that it's planning where to stop. So I knew I'd have to stop in Edinburgh, that was fairly obvious, but you get there and on the run into Edinburgh it's preconditioning the battery. The idea is that it warms the battery and gets it so that it's in a state where it'll charge faster. That's great. It also tells you exactly how long you need to be charging for to be able to then carry on the next leg of your trip. So you're not sat there guessing. The car tells you. okay, another 10 minutes, another 5 minutes, you've got enough charge. The reason why my Edinburgh charge was 10 minutes basically shorter than it said it was going to be originally is because it's got to take an average on the speed that the car's going to charge at. So when I first got there, I was on a stall by myself. So when I first got there with 20% battery and nobody on the other stall as part of that one, I was getting 175 kilowatt, which is a lot. It's, you know, 720 I think miles per hour of charging, which is rapid. Sorry, just interrupting myself for a second. This is the border, so we have literally just crossed into England, which is a shame. Joking. English, obviously. That is why it charged faster than I was expecting. So what did I do with that time, which turned out to be just over 25 minutes? Well, that was enough time to park the car up, plug it in, walk to McDonald's, buy some food, walk back and eat the food. So there was literally no time at all wasted on that stop, and I was ready for a stop, having been driving at that point for 3 hours. So it took 3 hours to get from northern Aberdeenshire down to Edinburgh. So, you know, it's not an inconvenience having to stop and charge on your trip. You know, if you're doing a long trip, you really should be making stops, because you get fatigued, and you know, some cars will actually shout at you, you know, take a break. My Volvo that I had a few years back would put a coffee symbol up on the screen and vibrate the wheel and literally try and navigate you off to somewhere where you could stop. So supercharging so far has been absolutely great. It's actually been debating with itself where it wants me to stop, and my initial thought, having had a scan at the trip and used a better route planner, was it would be charges at Edinburgh and then Scotch Corner, and then I'd probably need a top up a little bit further south. I certainly will be adding more than I need to get to the hotel, because I want some charge in the car for tomorrow's trip from Elstree to Norwich and back. So it was playing ball with Scotch Corner, and then it started telling me that it wanted to go to Ferrybridge instead, which is another chunk further south than that, and it was telling me that I would get to Ferrybridge with 8% left or 7%, somewhere around that. Now I think the reality here is I'm not quite prepared to run the battery quite that low just yet, because I know that the guessometer gives you a spread of different numbers in terms of how far the car can go, and what I'm doing at the moment, and frankly we're going quite slowly, there is traffic ahead of us on this last leg down to Scotch Corner, which is 13 miles now, but this is not how I'll be driving on the motorway, so whatever assumptions it's making based on this for the motorway will be wrong. Now I know it doesn't think that way, the algorithm is smarter, but I'd still be a little nervous about going past Scotch Corner with it saying 7% and then it dropping to say 4% or 3%. Now I've seen some videos of people like Tesla Bjorn, love Tesla Bjorn, and you know, Bjorn Island has run his Model 3 and I think Model Y below 0 and found there's quite a bit of battery left. I'm not going to do that, so I've had to actually go in to navigation and add a stop for the supercharger at Scotch Corner, because it was still insisting on taking me to Ferrybridge. So when I've had the car a bit longer, maybe we'll do that, but for now let's have a stop in just under 20 minutes time at Scotch Corner, which by the way, that's going to be, you know, 3 and a bit hours of driving, which I'm ready for a stop. So that's the decision I made. So the first thing that I've done with navigation significantly on this trip is overruled the computer where it comes to stops, just to be a bit more conservative, and we'll see how we get on. We're at Scotch Supercharger. It's quite busy. I mean, most of the stalls are full. There's literally one stall left. I've been here for, I don't know, 20 minutes, maybe 25, and I'm nearly ready to go. The supercharger is actually by the Holiday Inn, which has got a Starbucks inside, which is decent, and toilets and things, but you have got to register your car number plate on the little screen, otherwise you get a nice parking ticket, which is nice. So I've been into the toilet, I've walked actually across the roundabout to the services and been in M&S Food to get a few things and then come back, and the car is nearly charged up to where I need it to be. So once again, I'm not wasting any time sat at a supercharger. This is time I actually would have needed to have stopped anyway. So on my trip, I am going to the Hilton Doubletree down at Elstree. Now, it's telling me that I need to stop at Wyboston, where I'm going to arrive at the moment with 20% of range, but I've got 76% battery at the moment, and that's giving me 246 miles. I know that I actually want to stop at South Mims and put a load of charge in before my work trips tomorrow. So South Mims is 218 miles away, and I'm on 248 miles. So I'm at the point now where I think I've got enough to go all the way through, straight to South Mims without having to stop at Wyboston, and that's what I'm going to try and do. So our charge rate has now dropped to 59 kilowatts. I was getting 125 at one point, which is decent, so 58. So, I mean, it says 10 minutes remaining to continue trip. I'm a little confused as to why it's telling me that, because I think I've got plenty of charge to carry on without another stop. So let's have a look and see what it's saying. Yeah. So it's saying I'll get there on 4%, but I'm not going to go straight there. I'm going to go to South Mims instead. So let's go and unplug the car. I've really got to remember you have to do this inside the car before you actually get out. So hang on a second. Oh, dear me. Right, car mode, charging, stop charging, unlock charge port. Better. Now it'll unplug. Let's stick that back in there. Flaps closed. Right, I've just seen it flash up something about Sentry mode. So let's have a look at that. No, that's just another car parking, isn't it? I don't think there's anything actually to look at here. Anyway, we are going to get going. We are just south of Newark on the A1, making good progress. Traffic is fairly light. There's been the odd little bit where it's snarled up, but nothing too dramatic. But it is 3:30 in the afternoon, and I left home this morning at about 6:10. So it's been a long day, and there's still just under 2 hours to go, plus another charging stop. So what I was trying to do when I left Scotch Corner was to juice up enough to get me as far as South Mims, where I was going to stick more power in for the trip I need to do tomorrow, because there isn't overnight parking at the hotel. Well, there kind of is. There is a BP Pulse Rapid, which charges a lot of money, and you have to put money on the card in advance, and I don't want to rely on it. So I'm just going to use the supercharger network, of which there's one at South Mims, which is maybe 5 miles from my hotel. So although I put in what was it, 218, and I put in 250 miles. So I had 32 miles of spare range. What it is telling me at the moment is that wasn't enough. So although on the last 30 miles I have done 243 watt-hours per kilometre, so more than 4 miles per kilowatt hour, which is the benchmark that I've got, that isn't enough, apparently, and I'm not sure why, because I can add, and having put that much power in, I should have enough. So what we're probably going to end up doing is doing a what I used to call a splash and dash back in my fossil engine days. I suppose, what is it now, a zap and dash? We'll probably do a zap and dash at Wyboston, which is, no, Wyboston, south of the A14, which is I think one of the newer superchargers. We'll probably just do a quick tickle there, or frankly, if I'm getting mega charging speeds, I might put a lot in and then we'll use that for tomorrow. Either way, we're not going to make it all the way through, which is fine. Hello from Wyboston, which is on the A1, near Sandy. I'm about 45 minutes, I think, from the hotel, and I've stopped here at this really rather nice supercharger, which is very nice because it's empty, and has got decent facilities in the hotel just down there. And I am juicing up to make sure that I have got at least enough to get me across to Norwich and back as far as the Edinburgh Supercharger tomorrow, which is where we're going with my colleague. It's been quite a long trip, I'll be honest. Whenever I come down to the London area from northern Aberdeenshire, it's long. I mean, you're looking at, even when I was in the Outlander, having to fill the car up with fuel every 300 miles, it was still getting down there for about 5:30. It's now 5 o'clock here. So I think that driving a Tesla has added maybe half an hour or so onto it. What hasn't helped, frankly, has been traffic, and there's been several points where it's been really slow, really bunchy, especially on the A1 on the long run, south of Doncaster, past Newark and Grantham and, oh god, Stamford. Really slow and bunchy in quite a few places, which didn't help. So yeah, it's taken a little wee while, but that's okay. But we are a decent way into the charge, and we're still getting 93 kilowatts. When I plugged in, we were getting 215, which is fab. And I think if I'd arrived on, I was going to say fumes, but that's fuel. If I'd arrived on electrons, then we could have got close to the 250 kilowatts that these superchargers can deliver, which is, I mean, let's be honest, it's really quick. Even now that it's slowed down, it's still giving me 370 miles of charge per hour. So I'm not going to be anything like that long. You know, I haven't exactly hung around here a long time. Parked up, plugged the car in, walked across to the hotel, used the facilities, came back, switched this on. Hello again, YouTube. So it's adding a little bit more time, but I don't need anything like as much charge now as I'm adding to get to the hotel. I literally could have done a zap and dash. The thing is, the hotel doesn't have overnight charging, not slow charging anyway. There's a dodgy BP Pulse Rapid, which I'm not going to use. So what I'm doing now is I'm adding charge now for tomorrow. So I don't have to sit here now. I could have switched the thing off already, but I'm going to sit here probably for another 10-15 minutes. That'll give me enough, and then we'll get out of here. I've arrived at the hotel, and because I'm interested in these kind of things, and I hope you are too, I've done some very hard sums, because I wanted to work out how does the cost of getting my Tesla Model Y, the 535 miles from my house down here to the delights of the Doubletree Hilton in Elstree, How does it compare to my previous car, which was a Mitsubishi Outlander plug-in hybrid? Well, the good news is the Tesla is substantially cheaper. So the way I've worked this out is the Outlander, at its very best, would do 40 miles per gallon. So if I started off with a full battery on this kind of run, you'd get 40 out of it. Maybe a little bit more, but in the kind of traffic that we've had today, 40 is a reasonable number. So 40 miles per gallon, 535 miles, that's 13.25 gallons, which is 60.3 litres. I am going to use £1.60 a litre as the average fuel cost. You can get a little bit cheaper than that at the moment. You can get a lot more expensive than that. So £1.60 feels about right. So £1.60 a litre times 60.3 litres gives you a total cost of fuel of £96.48p. There's also the fact that you've got to charge the battery from like to full. So 10 kilowatt hours at my home charge rate of 16.6 pence per kilowatt hour is £1.66. Add the two together. So this trip in the Outlander would have cost £98.14, which is 18.3 pence per mile. So let's look at the Tesla. And the Tesla, starting off with a 90% charge in the battery, so that is 74 kilowatt hours. So again, charging that at home, 74 kilowatt hours at 16.6 pence per kilowatt hour gives you a cost to charge from home of £12.28p. I have done 3 supercharges on the way down, costing £92.46p. But, and it's a fairly big but, we have still got, if you look at the numbers, well actually it's 61% left. I thought it was 60, so I've done the numbers at 60% left. So 60% of an 82 kilowatt hour battery is 49 kilowatt hours, and given that the insane price of electricity at the moment in the United Kingdom means that Tesla are charging 67 pence per kilowatt hour, which is painful. So the cost of the power that's still in the battery pack under my bum is £32.83. That is money I've spent which I haven't yet burned, so that gets knocked off the cost of getting down here. So I have spent on charging £12.28 at the start to have a 90% full battery. I've spent £92.46 on the superchargers, and then I take off the 32 pounds, excuse me, put my teeth back in, and 83 pence that is still sat in the battery, which gives a total cost of getting down here of £71.91, which is 13.4 pence per mile. So that's the difference in numbers between driving an EV and driving actually a reasonably efficient your big petrol plug-in SUV. So 72 quid for the Tesla, 98 quid for the Outlander. So 13.4 pence per mile for the Tesla, 18.3 pence per mile for the Outlander. So I'm really pleased with that, and that is despite the fact that the cost of charging has just been put up, I think it was last week or the week before, by Tesla in response to the energy crisis. If we had done this trip a couple of weeks ago or 3 weeks ago or whenever it is, then the cost I think was 57p a kilowatt hour, so that would have taken probably another tenner off the cost, and before that you were into a lot less. So all in all, this car is still a really efficient and cheap way of getting from to and fro. And what I'm going to do is, just as a last point on this, I'm going to show you what the numbers look like. So this is the trip meter. I reset trip A when we set off this morning. So, well, actually I forgot just after we set off this morning, but the point is 274 watt hours per kilometre, so that's about 3.9 miles per kilowatt hour. So slightly behind the curve that I expect, but for the kind of roads and the traffic and so on, I think it's okay. That's it for this video. This is part 1 of my business road trip down south. Like, subscribe, comment. Part 2 will come up, potentially a part 3. Let's see how we go, and I will see you all again soon.